At some point, you guys are going to need to be honest about what you did, because I just heard you. What the fuck are you doing taking my past work and the real experience I have of being trafficked since I was a little girl as part of some sort of foreign proxy and saying that has anything to do with Hillary Clinton? Are you accusing me of slandering Hillary Clinton because I requested Congress investigate her for abuse of office while she was Secretary of State? I had every right to do that. You know, they had every right to contact me back and say, excuse me, but we're not going to accept this, and you can go through some other process of redress. And just so you know, when you're a journalist, you are allowed to protect your sources. You don't have to reveal information if you consider it to be part of a source for an article. Or if you're talking about offering to participate in a criminal investigation when you have a background in investigative journalism and there might already be some credibility with, I don't know, say the fact that you've already contacted the FBI before in terms of talking to them about matters. And you actually recently had to intersect with and engage with talking to members of federal agencies for an article you had done within a year of going on site to the Department of Justice that had nothing to do with Hillary Clinton's ego or her election campaign. You guys keep trying to make everything about this conspiracy you concocted to play into whatever this ritual is around her and a very, very narrow group of people. It's not just about Bob. It's about James. Did James actually get disciplined in Chicago? Or was that some sort of act of retaliation visited against James in connection with the fact that he had some sort of sparring match with Bob? What about Joey? What about Brendan? Those were people I knew from when I was a professional who are now licensed to practice law. They're actual attorneys. They weren't attorneys when I was a newspaper editor, but I talked with all three of them in person when I was in Chicago in 2015 and 16. So don't just collapse all of this shit into Neil and Bob, right? Those are the old guys that retired in a very specific kind of pension scheme that you wanted me to make my depository institution. Before those guys decided that they were entitled to completely monopolize my life and just pass me around until I am so extorted I finally give in. I actually literally talked in person to people I used to have a professional relationship with that are now licensed to practice law. Now, if they agreed to co-conspire with a systematology whereby they trafficked me as part of a pension kickback scheme, and it was just so happens, by the way, that they're all members of the Democratic Party, and that was something that they did, and in the course of that, they were playing some sort of racquetball or some sort of competitive bidding process with Republicans who are also licensed to practice law that were trafficking me in a different way, or rather waiting their turn to exercise options set up on trafficking me that took a while to mature under the rubric of the Democratic bond they had. And once that bond matured, rolled over to Republicans who wanted to traffic me through the same scheme because nobody who identified themselves as a Democrat or allowed themselves to play games of lesser evilism with a Democrat decided to do their job and actually support me in my rights to due process. And there were other attorneys I met with, including in person in Chicago, that I didn't have a past professional relationship with. But even when I was in the situation I was in at the time, I met with them as professionals. I even sent them email correspondence, including email correspondence associated with a legal strategy. A legal strategy, by the way, they never got back to me on, but a legal strategy that was actually successfully applied in connection with other legal strategies associated with the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone XL Pipeline before I even came to Texas. So regardless of what else you want to say and however you want to try to conflate this ex post facto, can we just get it on the record now? I was homeless. I had a right to due process, but I am not somebody that you can just write off as being this psychopath or this woman that's too mentally disturbed to acknowledge. Where's James? Where's Joey? Where's Brendan? What are Bob and Neil doing today? Did they attend a Clinton campaign fundraiser? I could give a fuck. That's not what any of this is about. Where's James Fenerty? Where's Joey Mogul? Where's Brendan Schiller? Where's Bob Bennett? And where's Neil Skeen? 1 year. 5 people licensed to practice law, all of whom I talked to in person. Why am I kidnapped and not allowed to talk to anybody? Well, day after day after day, you let a bunch of completely corrupt, alleged judicial officers traffic me and try to finance acts of terrorism that are so severe that the Department of Treasury is constantly backdating and overriding its own issues. How many people do you have to call up when you reissue a 30-year bond? Can we just deal with this now? That's 5 people you allow to this day to be put in a position where they're acknowledged as legal professionals. 5 people licensed to practice law and or members of a bar association and or that probably in the last 6 months have been in a courtroom. Some of them have responsibility for minors. Some of them are alleged to have clout. Unfortunately, you just made them a class, right? Where are they? Even if they wouldn't have been my attorney, even if they would have been opposing counsel, you don't have a right to completely disappear me and say it's all about the cover-up of whatever was actually going on with the Hillary Clinton email scam. Because I contend what she did is aid and abet a pension scam that was back in coding her emails and her little text messages with all the people that got sanctioned for their phone use or their inappropriate phone use, to use directed energy weapons to target political opposition in manners that are coming to bear right now. It may well have been a part of a biological weapons paradigm that is actually what COVID-19 is about. You want to go there? I need an affidavit from all 5 of those people that were, at least at one point in time, licensed to practice law in the state of Illinois and the state of Texas. You find their bar number, you find their licensing credentials, and you get them to provide me with an affidavit regarding the time frames during which they met with me in person in the years 2015, 2016, and or 2017.